Thank you, Miss Bevan. Got maybe one more minute. We'll get this, 2 minutes almost. Give the other members a chance to arrive.
What's quorum? We have quorum.
One more minute. Okay. All right, Ms. Bevan. Okay, we're going to open up the meeting, regular meeting for the Montgomery Economic Development Corporation. The date is February the 18th, and present we have Ryan Lundeen, Carol Langley, Arnett Easley, and myself. We are going to get this meeting started. So I believe we're going to go ahead and do the Pledge of Allegiance to begin with, and then we'll get the speakers. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the one state under God and indivisible. Now we are going to open up public forum. Let the record show Mr. Wade Nelson has joined us, and one of the members, Wade Nelson. Cheryl Fox, I believe you're up. Would you like to come to the podium and share some wisdom? Well, you said you got wisdom.
Hi, my name is Cheryl Fox, and I live at 821 Stewart here in Montgomery. And I came to talk again about purchasing a piece of property on the corner of Caroline and 149 or Liberty. I called the agent that has it listed and actually offered him, told him that I was interested, but they have $300,000 on it, and I said, well, that was, I thought, insane. And I asked if he would be willing to entertain something on the 200 lines, and he said he thought so. So I just wanted y'all to understand, because listed at the price she has it, which is 0.024587 acre, and I kind of, you realtor titans, I know no more about it than I do, that would actually be $10,712.50 a square foot. So I think that's just a little over our market, even though we do have a good market here. Don't think it really reaches that kind of price, but I still would like to have y'all entertain the fact of purchasing that piece of property due to the fact that I think it's very instrumental to our downtown ambiance, I would say, because I don't think there's a lot you can do with it, but there's, I'm sure, something that could be done, but I would really love to see that belong and have the city have control of that piece of property, unlike some of the other pieces of property we don't have. I mean.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Fox.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for her? No? Okay. Okay, well, we'll hop right into the agenda then. Thank you, Cheryl. The first item on the agenda is going to be a little presentation. It's going to be Understanding Type B Economic Development Corporations. That presentation is going to be by City Attorney Caleb Villarreal. And Mr. Villarreal, you are up.
Sounds good. Good evening, and I'll keep this short. Just hit the high points, mostly related to just expenditures and what the state law requires. So I work under Alan Petrov, city attorney, for 8 years now, and also represent municipal utility districts and real estate development. So just wanted to kind of go over the PowerPoint that we have here, and I'm not going to read it verbatim, but just wanted to kind of go over the process and what's required by law as far as publication and legal notices entail. So if you look at the first page of the PowerPoint presentation, we are a Type B EDC, which is afforded more latitude than a Type A EDC.
Hold on, Ruby, can we see it on the back screen or something, or? I don't have the PowerPoint. I can pull it up on my phone.
I was gonna give him what he did. Yes,
You got one? No. You got one?
yes.
Thank
You have one?
I got it on my computer.
Yeah, I was gonna pull my phone. This is better.
You have to pull up the email. Okay, Mr. Villarreal, go
We're
ahead.
just on the first page there. So
Yeah.
we are Type B EDC, and these corporations can fund land, buildings, equipment, facilities, expenditures, or other infrastructure and improvements related to new enterprises or business development, which is quite a broad definition there. But most expenditures are permissible as long as you adhere to the statute. Now, any project that's under $10,000, there's no approval by the city council required. So you guys can authorize a resolution or make a motion to make these expenditures that are under $10,000 threshold. If the expenditure is more than $10,000, then what you would do is have that item on the agenda and then make a recommendation or take action on that item. But what's then required is that item has to go to city council, okay? It has to go to city council, and they have to do 2 separate readings of the resolution. And then once city council approves the expenditure, then it's permissible. But before it goes to city council, you have to call a public hearing to let members of the public discuss that item and voice any concerns that they might have during that public hearing. And then once you close the public hearing, it goes to city council if the EDC is on board with the expenditure. There's an exception there for municipalities that have less than 20,000 people, like the city of Montgomery. If the expenditure fits within certain parameters of the statute, what's considered a primary job, which I'm not going to read it all there, but there's a slide that just lists all the different definitions of primary job, then a public hearing is not required. But typically, it's best just to hold the public hearing, see what members of the public have to say on the expenditure, and then once you take that under consideration, we prepare a resolution, and then it has to go before city council, and it's usually 2 separate meetings, or it is 2 separate meetings. 1 reading of the resolution, and then the subsequent meeting will be the 2nd reading of the resolution. So just high-level view there, you have public hearing that's required, and then council approval on these expenditures that are over $10,000.
Okay.
I'm going to flip over to the publishing page here, and with these expenditures, before you expend the funds, after it's approved by council, there's a 60-day waiting period on the publishing requirement here, because citizens of the community are allowed to petition for a special election and challenge the expenditure. So you don't expend the funds for 2 months, because members of the public can challenge that expenditure and request a special election at the next general election date to be held on that expenditure. And then it's up to the voters to either approve or not approve. And I think the threshold there is a petition of at least 10% of the registered voters.
Okay.
So,
So how many per quarter year, $10,000 expenditure can it be?
so it'll be separate expenditures. So every expenditure is a case-by-case individual basis. Correct. So for example, Ms. Fox was talking about the acquisition of land here. If we're interested, or if the EDC is interested in acquiring the land, because it's most likely going to be over $10,000, you're going to have the public hearing, and then we would prepare the resolution for council to approve, and they would approve the contract, but then the actual real estate contract would come back to Mr. Angelo here, and he would sign off on behalf of the EDC Corporation. So even though council approves, If the MEDC is making the purchase, you adhere to the statutory process, and then the resolution would come back to you, or the contract, the real estate contract would come back to you for final execution of those documents.
Okay.
So I guess all this to say that council approval is required on these expenditures over $10,000, and a public hearing is required. And you just want to make sure that you adhere to the statute so no one can challenge the expenditures 10, 15 years down the road or raise an issue.
I guess what I was asking, per quarter, do you limit the amount of expenditures at that amount? I just on a approval of council, anybody can come 5-6 times if they got a project?
Well, if they have a project, that project would be considered as its own item. If it's under $10,000, no council approval. If it's over $10,000, then council approval is required. If they have another project, same thing. You start the analysis with that $10,000 threshold. Under, then no council approval. Over, then you need council approval.
I think what he's asking is, there's no limit on
The number of.
the
The
number
number of how many times?
No.
of transactions.
No,
Yeah.
no, there's no limit.
Yeah.
No. So,
And how does that apply? Is it applicable also to contracts with respect to, maybe the whole contract may be over $10,000, but the monthly cost is budgeted and may be less than?
so you look at the cumulative amount, the entire contract.
The cumulative?
Yes, whatever that total amount is, that is the amount that must be either considered by EDC or by city council.
We were talking a little bit about contract acquisition and RFQs and things like that. What were the thresholds for reaching out and gathering bids?
It is $50,000, so EDCs do have to adhere to the same procurement statutes as the city.
Okay.
So same threshold there, $50,000, you have to go out for competitive bids. If it's under $50,000, the common process is RFQs, or request for proposals, but the competitive bidding process is not required when it's under $50,000.
And when does it hit the sealed bid threshold? Is that, or is it RFQ and that's it?
Yes, so
Okay.
$50,000, sealed bids are required.
For sealed bids are required for 50,000 or more?
Correct.
Got it.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, and the bid package typically says, gives all the instructions on the dates and deadlines, and that they must remain sealed until.
How do you go about looking for the vendors for these bids? Is there someone assigned to that that's in the city, or is that something that we would do as members of a board?
It depends. There's usually a database where you have your contractors, and usually the engineers are familiar with the database that has the contractors that kind of are familiar with those contracts, but then also notice is published in the newspaper, and these companies are always,
They're
checking
compliant.
notices and then seeing if that's something that they're interested in, or
Gotcha.
a contract that they're interested in entering into or not.
Okay.
Yeah, the administrator would post those typically.
Yeah, I would think. Okay.
I can't remember the database the engineers use, but there's usually a
Yeah.
database that's published, and they can all.
There's
bid on it.
different methods. But for professional services like engineering, that's not based off of a price. When do we have to go out for bids for that's different, I guess. Because there's some professional services you can go out for costs, but engineers, you can't base them off costs, it's based off of qualifications.
Yes.
Can you explain maybe the difference of those
Yes,
two?
so engineers, like you said, in the attorney's office, the standard there is most competent and qualified.
Right.
So you're actually prohibited by law from considering the price.
Right.
You are supposed to make your decision based on competency and qualifications, not based on the price or their hourly rate.
Yeah. But other professional services like graphics design, whatever, that is based off of more pricing, I guess?
So the statute has an exhaustive list. I don't have it in front of
Okay.
me. I want to say architects, surveyors, engineers, attorneys. I can't remember the other professions that are under that statute, but I can follow up with you there. But like I said, they're actually prohibited.
Yeah, it'd be good just to make sure everyone's aware that there's differences there. Sometimes you can go for cost, sometimes you go off qualifications, but I came up with the branding thing. I think we were fine because I looked it up myself, but I think it was fine with the branding. 'Cause
It was
just
way-
graphics design.
Yeah, it was like $1,500 for the total package.
And they all fall within the Professional Service Procurement Act.
Okay.
It has those list of exhaustive professions, and if you fall in that list, then you are prohibited from, submitting anything more than your qualifications or making a selection based on their competency.
Okay, good.
So,
Okay.
Real quick, so as an example, what Cheryl had described, city purchasing a piece of property, when does the 60 days for public review begin? Is it after the city council has approved the contract?
Correct. It's after, but then before the expenditure is made, you just have to, after it's approved, then wait the 60 days and just make sure that you don't spend $1 before that 60-day.
Right, so within a contract that we have for a piece of property, we need to build in 60 days in the feasibility.
Correct, before money is exchanged.
Right, before closing.
Correct.
Good.
Is it like an option period or?
Yeah, I like an option. Okay.
I know we have a long agenda tonight, so I didn't.
No,
that's fine.
I just kind of wanted to.
those were things we needed to answer, so that's good.
Okay.
So I guess one other question, the city could reject any type of expenditure of the EDC. When would they vote on that? Is that the first reading that they vote, or do they do 2 readings and then they vote on the expenditure?
So it would be the first.
The first one?
Typically,
They could just shut it down immediately there.
Yes.
Would they approve it then, and then there's 2 readings? Is that how it works? The first reading is the vote, and then if they do another second reading, or?
So typically, if council is not on board with the expenditure, sometimes it doesn't make their agenda.
Okay.
It's just, doesn't make their agenda. If they're on board with the expenditure, they'll fulfill the statutory process.
Okay.
But if they're not on board, they just sometimes discuss it, other times they'll just let it die.
Got it.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you, Mr. Villarreal. I appreciate it. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else? No?
I just want a clarification. Expenditures could be water lines, sewer, streetscape improvements, streets improvements, as long as we can tie it to some type of economic incentive, right? Because there's always been some confusion with the EDC group on what we can spend our money on, but I think we can spend our money on all those things, on public infrastructure that helps bring economic activity to the city.
Correct. Promotes new development and economic enterprise.
Does that have to be tied to a specific development?
It's
Is
a
it
vague-
I don't think
Okay. Okay.
No, future development.
Yeah.
Correct. It's very, a very vague, wide definition there, especially under type B.
Yeah. I just wanted to hear that from our attorney's mouth.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because there's been some confusion on that.
That's something
It's
that
to
we,
incentivize development.
and that's something that we analyze, whenever you ask us to prepare the resolution. We kind of analyze, does a public hearing need to take place here? If so, what statute allows us to make this expenditure? And then you put that part of the code in the whereas clauses. That way the person that knows, or that is reading the resolution, they know, okay, this is the statute that authorizes this expenditure.
Got it.
So you just want it to be clear.
Is there any prohibition of us just funneling money back over to the city's budget and let them spend it however they want?
That happens, no, there's no prohibition because city council they provide oversight and they ultimately have to approve your budget every year, the MEDC budget. So it's very common for those transfer of funds to take place.
Because we have some items that are transferred back to the city for capital improvement, various things. You're saying that's fine?
Yes, as long as it's budgeted.
Okay.
In your budget and that specific line item is accounted
Got it.
for and it's showing that it's going to the city, then that's no problem.
Okay.
Okay. Good. Any other questions then? No? Okay, we're
If
good.
anything else comes to mind, I'll be here all night with you guys. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. That's
All right, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Villarreal. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a consideration and possible action to approve a grant application for funding in the amount of $5,200 for the Montgomery Antique and Unique Festival. And I believe Ms. Camber is here to give us how about you, Stan? Anybody want to share some insight as to I can go ahead and give a little bit of detail, and if y'all want to add to it.
I'm happy to do it.
Okay.
I mean, I am too, I just didn't.
Okay, you didn't prepare a big speech today? Okay, I'm thankful that you're here, Canberra. Let me just ask you some questions so that the rest of the members, we had a meeting a couple of weeks ago, and what you expressed to me was that there was a need in the past. This is the first time in 2 years that this has come back, right?
Yes.
Okay. In the past, the city or the EDC has funded the project to the tune of about $10,000 for each event. Is that correct?
I would say, I would agree with that statement, except that it has been six years since
Okay.
the event asked for any funding from anything.
Any compensation, any funds, okay? So this year, we're asking for $5,200, and it has to do, mainly, it only partially accommodates the security from Montgomery PD, correct?
Yes.
Because the whole package was, what, 85, or closer to?
Originally, the original discussion that was had, for what was required was going to be around $9,500.
Right.
That was revised and reduced, I think, because one officer was reduced overnight, if I'm not mistaken. I
Right.
don't have it right in front of me. But it was reduced to $8,200 was the
Final
number. For
security number. So you're not asking for anything other than to fund us partially fund the security for the entire event,
The
which
entire
is
event,
it's a 2-day event, but they're set up a 3-day.
So setup is on Thursday. The vendors set up on Thursday. We start usually at 8 a.m. and they're done typically by 5 or 6. So security would start that night and it would last 24 hours until the vendors pack up and leave on Sunday at around 5.
And because these are tents, they're not really, there's no other way to really secure their valuables, which are antiques and high dollar items. How many people do you expect to bring into the city during this event?
I'm in hopes if the weather cooperates,
Yeah.
1,000 to 2,500 a day.
A day, okay, minimum.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
And so have you spoken with any of the other businesses in the area, and how do they feel about this event?
Everyone that I've spoken to is extremely excited to have it back because typically, I would say most of the businesses I have talked to, myself included, revenue was down about 40%.
Year over year?
Without having the Antique Festival and or the Wine Festival to bring additional visitors to town.
So in lieu of not having the wine festival, this event, you've sort of championed this and brought it back?
Yes.
Good for you. And then the goal is to drive revenue for these businesses who have sort of suffered year over year,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Absolutely. That's the whole goal is,
Right. Well,
our business included, but
Yeah.
everybody else too.
Is the scheduling kind of coordinated where when Round Top is falling off?
Yes.
Y'all
Yes,
pick up?
sir. This will be the 27th year of this event. It come in May. The original schedule, when they set it up 27 years ago, was to have the vendors do their main showcases, finish at Round Top, and then come here. There was about a week of time that would pass between the two shows. Now Round Top has kind of extended their days,
Year-round, yeah.
so they're going to get maybe 3 days,
Yeah.
and they'll be here, and 90% of them will finish their year here.
Okay.
This will be the last event they do, and historically, it is the best event they do. I mean, that's what their feedback is.
Good.
Is that it's one of the best ones that they do all year. So
yeah.
I'm in hopes to get it back to that again.
I think, and how many booths have you secured as of today?
As of today, I went through the tents. The community building is full, and I have 3 tents that are completely full.
So how many vendors total? Was it
I
200?
knew you were gonna ask me that.
Well, that's
Ballpark.
8 and 12, so around 42.
42. So you basically almost sold it out.
I'm halfway.
Halfway there?
The tents are halfway full. So I
Okay.
still have the property that was in discussion a minute ago with Ms. Fox.
Right.
We put people there, and then around the community grounds, the community building, people will set up around there, and then I try to leave I don't have tents set in the community building parking lot. In case the rain is too bad, those vendors can move onto the concrete. And
Not be on grass.
And not be on the grass,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, it's good to have that event back, I believe, and thank you for picking up the mantle on that. I know something, just a little background for the other members, is this was talked about with the previous administration going back to October of last year, and it just made it to us because it was shelved. If it wasn't for her persistence, we probably wouldn't even know about it. So thankfully, between you and Stephanie, we were able to get it back on the agenda just in the nick of time, so to speak. So at any rate, you know, does anybody have any questions regarding this event? Would anybody like to make a motion?
I make a motion that we approve application for fund in the amount of $5,200 for the Montgomery Antique and Unique Festival.
I'll second.
So it's been motioned and seconded that we approve the grant application for funding in the amount of $5,200 for the Montgomery Antique and Unique Festival. This motion is minimal, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That motion carries. You're funded. You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, good luck. You have to come back and tell us how it went, okay? Okay, so we're going to go to our next agenda item, which is the consideration and discussion of the proposed city marketing logo and the official seal. I'll give you a little background on this. Many meetings ago, started discussing making some adjustments to the marketing side of the city, giving it a little bit of a facelift with respect to the logo. And so I sort of went out a little bit, I hate to say the word lone wolf, but there wasn't really anybody to help assist with that until Stephanie kind of jumped in and just started the ball rolling, getting a graphic artist company on board to help us create a branding package, which is in your guide right here, this guide right here. This did not make it into our agenda packet, but it will be added subsequently and put in so that anybody in the public would like to review it and look it over. But this was went through many iterations, and you could scroll around and see on our packet just how many times we had to make adjustments. Chief Solomon and Ruby and Stephanie and Mayor Countryman all had a sort of a part in helping me sort of guide me towards getting this to the final logo, which we are now presenting now. And in the process of this, Ms. Langley had a great suggestion that we maintain our city seal, because that seal has represented the city for quite some time, and it's very official looking, and it's already on a lot of our city documents. And so I thought from a branding standpoint, we could maybe utilize the logo, because we needed to take that trademarked birthplace of the Texas flag and start getting it on some merchandise and start utilizing it. But for more, legal and other type of documents, we can continue to use the city seal. Plus, they're on all the manhole holes and stuff like that. We don't want to change that. So the idea here is to discuss and decide if we want to approve this and send it to council for final approval, and then they would make the final determination.
Yeah, I'm definitely in agreement with keeping the seal. And I like the logo. My only comment is the blue looks off in the print.
Well, that's my home printer, so it may
Yeah,
not be.
so I just want to make sure we confirm that the colors, the blue especially, matches the Texas flag.
So the blue is the exact PMS color as the Texas flag, so yeah, we definitely got that. But yeah, this is just, city printer, I mean a city printer. Probably a city printer would be good.
No, it looks good. I really think it looks great.
Any other comments?
This is the one that you're talking about?
Well, no, that's.
Which one is?
It's going to be in this packet, not that.
The one in the packet is not up to date.
It's going to be. Well, this one is, see how it's washed out and it's got these lines here? It's been cleaned up to use a much cleaner lines. That's one of the things Chief Solomon had mentioned. So even though it's, well, this is it right here. So it's throughout this whole thing. Yeah, this is there.
Yeah. It's page 3, Carol, on the packet.
Yeah, I got it, 3.
Yeah, there's a primary and secondary logo.
Okay.
Very last one.
Okay, so this is up for discussion, and I believe, Ms. Bevan, is there anything that any action we need to take on this other than if we decide to move forward, send it to City Council?
That's it.
Okay.
Quick comment there. I know I've been working with Gary on this issue because apparently there was some maybe for-profit businesses that might use the logo, and I had proposed what numerous cities have in place is just a short policy about the use of city logos. And a short application, and if you're nonprofit, then typically they don't pay the license fee. If it's a for-profit company, they pay a license fee for using the city's logo.
Right.
And with that, you kind of control the use of the logo and just make sure that they're not putting the logo anywhere that they're not supposed to and alleviate liability concerns. Also, what's typical in most cities is when merchandise is sold, there's a threshold. Typically, it's like 5% of the gross sales of that merchandise with the city's logo is remitted back to the city for using their logo.
Okay.
So these are just options, kind of just want to make you aware of those options, and we can have that application and then policy just to formalize the process and make sure that we know who all is using the city's logo, and then make sure the city's compensated for the use of their trademark.
That's great, and that's exactly what we were hoping to do. So we want to get merchandise rolling out in a lot of the shops throughout the city, and especially for tourism and things like that. Is this a policy that our city attorneys will help craft?
Absolutely, it's maybe a page and a half. It's
Okay.
nothing super voluminous, it's just a short little document with some guidelines.
And how are these fees reconciled with respect to, oversight and things like that? Do they come into a specific line item budget, or?
So typically, it's a marketing department of the city, which I don't believe we have one here, but usually you have one department that oversees the application process, just to make sure that the people that are using the logo are complying with the city's policy and remitting the sales tax or the amount that they should be remitting
So
in accordance with
so
city
it's
policy.
basically a commission on sales right?
Correct.
Something like that? Yeah, okay.
Correct, but
And
it's always good to have a policy in place.
I agree. Would that be something that,
So, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is that something that Stephanie would handle, or?
Well, it needs to be ready by the time it goes to council. Because if council doesn't have A, B, and C, they're not going to vote on it that night. So is there a fee that we need to come up with, or you already have a fee?
It's up to you. Up to you. What I've seen is sometimes quarterly. I think that's a bit of a headache. Having these entities remit payments quarterly to you guys, it's probably easier and more simple to do annually. But like I said, what I've seen is usually like a 5% of the gross sales on that first coffee mug or T-shirt or pin with
They're
the
not
city
gonna,
logo.
they're not gonna keep up with all that.
It
Don't we just need to say, you
A flat fee?
come, to the
You can.
city? If you're a business, an individual isn't gonna be able to get this, are they?
Absolutely. So a for-profit individual, company can do this as long as they go through the process, submit the application,
Okay.
meet the criteria, and then pay the fee.
Okay.
And you certainly are entitled to just make a lump sum
And so-
amount.
I would think you're right, Carol. I would think that
Once-
just a one lump sum fee, just a small,
We'll look at those prices from different places and how other people are doing, and we'll come up with a set price and see if it's something the council agrees with. Because yeah, if you're trying to do one for this and one for that, 5% here, that's gonna be way out. So, yeah,
You can't do that.
we'll come up with some set prices.
Because I know like at Jim's Hardware, I'm not gonna be able to keep up with how many coffee cups we sold
Right.
and then give that money to, so Jim's Hardware just needs to pay a total
Pay a fee,
amount.
yeah.
$500, $250, $50, whatever the city
a
said.
licensing fee.
Get our permit and then start making our t-shirts. Is that
Yeah.
what we're talking about?
We need like a fee schedule or something. Like if they buy, is it $50 for 50 shirts or $50 for 1,000 shirts or?
Well, once I buy it, I can make as many t-shirts as I want to.
I didn't know if we will.
I mean,
but
is
they-
that,
Like if someone goes out and mass sells this and makes a huge profit off of it and the city gets nothing for it.
that's correct? That's,
We don't have enough sales that are gonna outsell what the city would sell.
But HEB might be able to push shirts pretty
Well,
well.
for bigger organizations, you
vendors.
charge more.
Yeah, I would.
It's sort of like we buy our police cups and our police logos. What we do is for so many, we buy for 200, it may cost you $500. So we'll set those prices at that range. So if Home Depot or HEB does want to sell those, we give them a limit on what limit are you gonna buy. If it's 500, then that may be
That sounds like a good deal,
1,500.
yeah.
So Chief, are you saying that they buy them through your selected vendor?
No, what we're gonna say is that when we're talking about putting this policy together, we'll take a look and see where all that lands, and then we'll see if city council agrees with those price ranges.
Okay.
So we'll
So,
go from there.
would it be best
We don't
to
really have to contemplate that. We'll look at the policies and find out how that works, and we'll bring you something that you can, we'll bring city council something they can take a look at.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
So do we need a motion
I
to
just wanted to-
send this to city?
One point of clarification, we own the trademark to birthplace of
Correct.
Texas.
Yes,
So
yeah.
it was filed in, let's see, 2021 it was registered, the birthplace of the Texas flag.
Okay.
It was registered.
We want to get this marketed out there so that we can maintain that trademark. If you don't use it, you lose it. That was the whole, kind of what started all this. Okay, so Ms. Bevan, do we need to make a motion to send this to city council for approval?
Yes.
Okay, who wants to make a motion? Anybody? Not you?
I'll make the motion. I'm trying to.
You're kind of sheepishly. So you basically you're just making a motion that we accept the,
Number 5.
Sorry. I'm way off. All right. I make a motion for the proposed city marketing logo and the official seal.
I'm not taking an official seal to the city council to do anything with
it
it.
doesn't need to be, it's already there.
So it'll just be the proposed city marketing.
The seal doesn't change
logo.
at all, we just have the better resolution image for it, right?
We've already done that.
Yeah, so there's no reason to
I
make
had-
any
I had-
type of motion.
Yeah, I had it converted into vector art, and it's clean as a whistle now.
Yeah. Okay, so we only need to make a motion on the marketing logo?
Yes,
All right, I'll make a motion of the proposed city marketing logo
to send to city council.
to
for
send to
approval.
city council for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, it's been motioned and seconded that we take the new city logo to city council for approval for marketing purposes, and seconded. It's amendable, debatable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that motion passes. We will be sending the new logo to City Council for approval and marketing purposes. Yay. Okay, let's go to the next item on the agenda, and that is consideration of possible action regarding a phased funding budget for wayfinding signage. All right. We have been working on the wayfinding signage package. Is MERS here now represented? Okay. So for quite some time, I don't know, maybe over a year now. And so we are at the point now where we need to get it funded and move forward. But so I put together some, I had a local company just throw some pricing together, not that it's an official RFP or anything, but it just kind of shows some of the pricing for these signs. Now, I'm no expert on city signs and certainly don't have a clue when it comes to procuring vendors for this kind of a program. But if you look at the number of signs that we have, I think we're going to exceed $10,000 when it's all said and done. These are for each sign. So it's very possible that we'll exceed the $10,000 threshold. So the question is, Ryan, how do we go about, where do we go from here with respect to getting these?
Did they look at the specs, and that's what these prices are?
Yes. Yeah.
I think we need to decide how much we want to spend first, use these as a ballpark, and then select the group of signs that we want to install all at once, and then ask for our official bids for that group of signs.
Okay.
That's what I think. And if it comes up higher, then I think we can negotiate by a line item of actually, no, we can't afford these, so instead of doing like 20 signs, we'll do 15 signs, is what I think. So I think we just need, as a group, decide which signs to gather together, how much we want to spend roughly, and then select the group of signs that we want to install and then go out for bids on that group of signs.
Wade, anything to add?
I worry about piecemealing it, because when you piecemeal it, you don't get the best
I
price.
think there's like 100 signs.
Yeah.
So that's my concern. But if we could, and we could just try to figure out how much it all costs together, and then it's going to take a while too to get permissions for all these as well.
Yeah. But I mean, we're going to have to go out and do the 60-day.
Where did you get that $10,000 from on signs?
Just this line item list, just if you add it up.
Oh, here, Chief.
No, I got one.
Okay, the idea, we think, we've got a lot of signs.
As we looked at those signs, the cost is really, really up there, so.
Yeah, that's why I asked, like, our signs are specific. I want to make sure that these costs are based on.
Chief, that's what I said, it's going to go well past 10,000, not under 10,000.
So that's exactly what we need you to do, is figure out which one you want, how many, and then maybe set the budget on that. Tim, you got some information?
Well, can I ask about the cost? You have a different cost?
Well, as we look at the Wayfair side, it's good.
You had the cost? You have a better?
I don't have any.
Nobody has the cost, and this is what we've been going back and forth on
It's
forever.
like, if a sign costs 50 grand, then man, that adds up super quick, and we can't pay for the whole thing.
Exactly.
If we want to do McCown, but they're like 10 grand or whatever, 5 grand or whatever, then we can afford more, so.
Yes. So that's exactly what we're saying, is because you're going to choose which type of signs you want.
Yeah.
And once you choose which type, then we can figure out that price range, because we've seen some in here that's going up to $60,000. So it's going to be about choosing some of the signs.
I wonder if we could just, well,
Tilly,
that's all right. I don't mean to cut you, I'm just thinking.
If we could just backtrack a little bit so that we're all reading the same thing. So back in, what was it? It says it on here in the report. When, in August of 2024, MEDC had approved small first phase implementation of the wayfinding program. So what was that small first phase?
Okay.
Was there a picture of all the signs that you were saying, this is
We
going to be a part of the
did. We
first
did
phase?
have a group of signs that we wanted to go forward with. The problem was the city administrator, assistant city administrator were supposed to bring us some vendor, or in other words, some true cost, and that never happened.
So was this the first
Well,
phase?
there were various, it's not just one page of signs. It was actually specific locations that we wanted, like.
So not the type of sign, but the location of the sign?
Correct. There were like the library sign, and there was various city, the big sign that.
The welcome?
The entry.
Welcome, yeah, the welcome, what's it called? Not a-
Gateway?
Yeah, like a gateway sign.
Like this monument sign?
Yeah, monument sign, that's what I was,
The monument sign, or?
maybe not that
It
particular
probably
one.
wasn't that one, but yeah.
So
If we could get,
there's so many signs, but we don't know which ones to even go out and ask for, and so we get together once a month.
We could go out and ask for bids for all of them and see where it lands, and see if they would come down on pricing if we need
For a bigger
less.
project, yeah.
Yeah,
Because you're gonna get a discount if you do more. So if we go piecemeal in smaller pieces, they're probably gonna be a little bit more expensive.
right. So how do we do?
was the group in this packet?
Yes.
It was in this packet
Yeah.
of August, I think.
Correct.
That was the date.
Yeah, we've all had that packet for over a year now. It's been ready, it's just, we don't have any pricing to be able to even make a decision on anything.
So could we get the pages at some point? Which signs we're looking for?
I think that's gonna be somebody, I think that's gonna be us all getting back together and reviewing it again. There's no way to pick it today.
Yeah,
We can't pick it today because you don't wanna go pick out a sign that's disconnected out in the middle of nowhere to lead someone to go to the city, and then now what? We need to have a strategy.
But you're right on all of that. There are two attachments that are part of this. One of them was the design intent drawings, and the other one was a packet for locations.
Yeah.
It would be advisable if
Yeah.
you would go through the packets and look to see what locations that were outlined in this packet that you want to look at, and look at the designs that are provided and choose something and bring them back to us so we can obtain a quote for you. But we need to just start from this point, from that direction, and move on.
I think I could help with that. I could try to go, what needs to happen, what we could have potentially paid for is an implementation plan where they would have gone in and said, if you need to segment it out, this is how we do it. We could potentially ask them to do that. We probably have to pay them money to do that. Or we just have someone here goes in and just says, okay, this group of signs needs to go together. This group of signs needs to go together. We could probably phase it into like 3 or 4 different phases. And what we could potentially do is then go ask for bids for those 3 phases. Bid each phase individually. Give us the cost for all of it, but give us the pricing for each phase. And then we can decide then which ones we want to actually fund.
I'm glad an engineer is in the audience today, thank you.
My biggest concern would be just, let's don't go the cheap route, because you're never gonna be happy with it once it goes up.
Right.
I mean, we can cut costs and all this, but if you don't do it right the first time, it's gonna look like crap going forward. So if we have a flimsy little sign up there, just
Well,
to
we've
get a
got
sign.
strong specifications
No, I know,
on
I
there, like
understand,
what it needs.
I wanna make sure.
The attachment on here
This is just-
specifies the type of concrete.
No, I know,
You should look through, it gives extreme detail on what the sign should be made of, how it should look, how it should be manufactured, how it should be attached, how it should be put into the ground, all that kind of stuff. And the contractor, whenever you put the bids out or ask for bids, they're gonna have to give us pricing to build it exactly to those specifications.
Right.
that they
Can I
gave
make
us.
a suggestion? Tilly knows the city ordinances. You're very good with, I know you've got a regular job and everything, but can we all, maybe a few of us get together and just pick the 3 phases? I mean, you know where all the development's going. I mean, it would be nice to just sit down for an hour one day in a conference room and come up with a plan.
Yeah, and I can do some preliminary looking through it, because you need to have like, we want to focus on 105, that's where the highest traffic volume is.
Right.
And we need to make sure that when those signs are pointing people somewhere, they know where they're going.
Right.
To get to we don't want to point them in random directions and then
Okay.
they don't know.
I agree,
where to go.
yeah.
So,
I mean,
I think that's the approach.
I think the design is really good. It's
think
just
so,
a
too.
matter of getting to step 2, which is when are we going to get them on the
So I
ground?
think we just need to have like a small committee or something.
Tilly, would that be something you could assist us with in terms of making sure that we we have the, you can help us with the ordinance side of things as we're trying to develop.
So the other thing we need to talk about is who's going to coordinate with like TxDOT and private property owners if there's signs that are going to be in private property owners, or the signs on McCown Street that we need to coordinate with the design group on making sure these signs, can they be placed now or do they need to be placed later?
And that was part of what we looked at when we heard about this a year ago. Where are these signs going to be placed at? Are they going to be placed on TxDOT's right-of-way, on the right-of-ways? And that's where Tilly was coming in to see where we could place these signs at.
And
so we'll cover that on where you can place them once you get to the area. But I guess the main thing is all this time, we just need to know which signs it is that you want. We need to choose those
Gonna be
signs
installed.
so we can start.
Well, how about we just say we want them all?
Okay.
And we could do that, right? I mean, and we could do that, and then maybe they're phased, but we love the package. We voted for the package. We've agreed to the package. We just don't have any price on the package. We're ready to buy it. We just don't know how much it is.
It's putting a wish list together and then you come down off of that. It's really what
You
it is.
could, you go out for bids and you get bids back, but then it could be too expensive. So
Yeah.
I was suggesting just maybe coming up with a preset of 3 phases. But
Okay.
If y'all, because
So-
we have a McCown project that we want to do also, right?
Yes.
And that's a big portion of our budget, so can we afford signs and this at the same time? So I think doing phases, you could then go ask for bids for the whole thing, or you could just ask for bids for 3 phases, or you could do both. Sometimes you can
I
have
think
your.
you can do both, yeah.
Yeah, you could say, give me a price if we did all of them at one time, or give me a price to do each phase individually.
Break it out.
Yeah.
Tilly, what do you?
Have a target date.
Yeah, target dates,
Finish each
all
one of
driven
those
by
phases.
deadlines. Okay.
By phase.
So,
But I don't know, I noticed that these signs don't have our city seal on them.
I don't think
They're not
any of
going
the
to.
signs have a seal
I think
or
it
a
was
logo.
It's
state
the-
flag mostly.
No,
Yeah,
they weren't going to.
Okay,
We don't have to make any
The
changes.
star in the circle,
that was sufficient.
yeah, I mean, we like the design and everything.
Right.
Basically, everything's been approved except who we buying them from and when are they gonna get installed?
And then just as an afterthought, because if we're staying with that design, the star and the circle and that kind of thing, was there a thought that maybe our marketing logo might look similar to that? I mean, where we link the city so that it kind of,
I looked at
I didn't know.
I looked at the signs again because I saw that in there, and it looked like they were fine. It doesn't look like our new marketing logo is going to clash with the signs. I mean, it's the state flag colors generally, so I think it's going to look okay.
We could always go back and revisit that maybe, once we get to the company, say, maybe we look at that. But rather than postpone this and continue to postpone it, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think the main thing is just to get going. And we've just had we've had a lot of trouble getting going on this. We just don't know where to begin, to be
how
honest
soon
with you.
do we want that meeting? And how many?
I would think within the next week or two, we probably need to get the powers that
Maybe
be.
like 2 weeks or
Check schedules for, would you be interested in?
I'm fine.
so that we can, just soon enough to where we can bring it back at the next meeting.
Yeah,
We can have
yeah,
a
get
plan
plan-
on, and we can all vote on which plan we'll take.
What's the bylaw say?
I'll get a meeting.
Okay,
Okay.
Just Tilly.
you just tell me when, Tilly, I'll be there, okay? And these guys are a little bit more active than I am, so,
We'll accommodate whatever
Okay, all right.
works.
okay, so nothing to vote on, chief?
Well, who's on that group? we
Who
need
wants
to
to
do
be
it.
on the committee to go through the signs? Anybody else?
Is it just me and Jeff?
No, just
We
me?
want to make sure that we
Wait,
don't get in trouble with the quorum.
So quorum would be 4 people. If it's 3 of you, unless the bylaws say different.
We could just show up here.
Quorum would be 4.
so we need 4 total.
No.
no, you
we need
don't.
Less than 3, less than 4.
We don't want, well, there's only 3 of us here that,
That's
We just need to
three.
post it somewhere?
Let them go.
Do we need to post it?
Not if you're
Not if
not
it's
a
just
quorum.
3.
yeah, well, it's just a discussion to try
These 3 right here.
Yes.
All right,
So
good.
you just want to make a motion to that effect, motion to appoint a committee, name the members to fulfill whatever objective we just described.
Okay, I'll make a motion to form a committee on developing a plan for the wayfinding and signage that includes Jeff Angelo, Wade Nelson, and Ryan, me.
And it's seconded by Wade, right?
Second.
Yeah, so the motion's been made to create a committee to develop our wayfinding signage to go out to bid and that is going to include Ryan Lundeen, Wade Nelson, and myself, and that is going to happen within the next couple of weeks, and Ms. Tilley is going to be the one to schedule that meeting. It's amenable, debatable, requires majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Sorry. All those opposed, no. Okay, so that motion passes. And yay, one more thing we're going to move forward on. I say yay a lot because it's really fun now. Okay. All right, let's go. We're going to, discussion and update on the McCowan Street project. And here he is.
Good evening, MEDC. My name is Zachary Towns. Just for y'all that are not aware of who I am, I work with Chris and Catherine as a city engineer. So I'm here to present a couple of updates for the downtown streetscape project. So in y'all's council, or not council, MEDC packet on page 211, there is a memo from WGA kind of outlining the summary of what's going on with the project. And so kind of just to bring everybody up to speed, the discussions we've been having over the past couple of months are as follows. So essentially back in around early January, we received updates from Ardura, who was commissioned by the MEDC y'all to update the downtown streetscape, which includes the McCowan and I think it's just McCowan actually, for the streetscapes project. Essentially what they have been told by former staff is to hold off. And so during staff turnover earlier this year, and now through today, we've been having preliminary updates periodically, dating back as far as January 29th, when we had a joint meeting, or workshop rather, with Ardura, their consultant, and MEDC Council and P&Z. So essentially what follows now is those updates. And so it's three-phased, the project. So Ardura's side, which is covering the surface improvements, essentially all of the pavement and streetscaping above ground. So that includes your decks, your plazas, etc. They've updated their design as such, and that can be found on pages 213 and 214 of your packet. Essentially what they have proposed is a one-way northbound from, I want to get the street right, Caroline up along McCowan all the way through College Street, and then essentially from around the steakhouse would be one-way going south to allow for parking and foot traffic in that plaza, as you can see in that packet. And so essentially what's happened since then regarding this layout is on, I want to say January 30th, there was a downtown meeting with all of the downtown business owners and the mayor, Ms. Sarah Countryman, with the stake owner, essentially bringing them up to speed on where they stood within the scope of this project. They were amenable to, and if y'all remember, discussions about turning some of their parking lot into a driveway to access Maiden Street to the east. So essentially where that stands is now is Chris and potentially Ms. Tilley are having conversations about getting access to that parking lot. We would not be requiring any right-of-way, it would be a driveway access easement, so essentially allowing traffic from Caroline through Maiden or through McCowan to Maiden. So that's the surface improvements part of the project. Where WGA comes in is the linear utilities associated with those improvements. And so we were authorized to begin design on the downtown water line replacement that essentially replaces water line along Caroline, McCowan, and all of your downtown area, replacing various 6- and 4-inch lines with 8-inch lines just to upsize and provide some additional flow within the area. We've since reduced our scope to match what is currently being proposed with the downtown streetscape. No sense in tearing up more than what we need to, and we're essentially revising or splitting out our current scope to be phased out. So the current phase, what we have now, matches what Ardura is proposing, and then we'll come back later, at a later date, to finish out the rest of the project. So our current scope for water line replacement is only through McCowan. We would come back later for the Caroline water line replacement. Additionally, with that, we have some storm sewer replacement that goes along with the downtown streetscape. Again, that scope is also mirroring what's being proposed by Ardura, so it would only be for the McCowan Street drive-out. And so essentially what we're going through next is conversations with the private property owner to make sure that they are amenable to allowing the city to access their parking lot and propose that access drive through their parking lot. From there, we will revise the scope along with Ardura to make sure that we're encompassing the proposed improvements to said layout, because currently there are none, as you're seeing in this packet. So from there, we would revise the layout, identify scope and cost for the project, and then timeline for construction and bidding, et cetera. Right now, with your current scope, the project is outlined to be around $1.9 million. And that is only for the McCowan Street improvements. Nothing along Maiden, nothing for the drive aisles, and et cetera. Any questions?
Yeah, so the driveway through the steakhouse, that's probably a point of confusion. If y'all remember, there's that pedestrian piece in the middle with the star and the raised, it's kind of a raised brick area. Yeah. Originally, I think that was supposed to be closed off either permanently or temporarily by, I think I was talking to Ardura, you could potentially put removable bollards there and the pedestrians could use it and you'd block off vehicular traffic. I don't think we could do that without this driveway. So I think, I could be wrong here. If it's one way, that lane always has to be open, I think, even without removable bollards. But if we have the turn lane through the steakhouse, I think you can then have the option to close that down whenever you want for pedestrian activity.
So how they have it proposed now is that it is through traffic through Maiden Street.
Yeah, so on the right side of the thing, I was talking to Ardura and it wasn't really clear of if we did close down the pedestrian with removable bollards, then the north side of that pedestrian walkway area would have to be two-way, I believe. And that's what they originally had, was two-way. And they were expressing doubts that that was even possible now, and I don't remember why. But that was all contingent on the driveway. We had to change plans a couple times because with him not allowing us access with this driveway, we had to make a continuous one lane through, and that's what's here. So I don't know if we need to go back to Ardura and ask them on the north side of this pedestrian area, can we do two-way parking there again or not?
So we've been in communication with Ardura, and to my understanding, what's north of the pedestrian plaza is currently with no access through the steakhouse two-way. So you would allow for northbound traffic from Caroline to College, and then from College to the plaza for that, I forget the term, but the kind of staggered parking.
Yeah, it looks here on what I have is head-in parking at one-way angled parking, but I could be seeing it wrong.
I would have to confirm with Ardura their intent, but either way, as to your point, with the conversations of the steakhouse being back open, I believe they would have to revise their layout regardless of whether or not it was one way through or two ways, south and north.
Yeah, if you could confirm with them, because I was talking to them and they had confirmed, I just would like them to confirm that we can have the option to close down that pedestrian area with removable bollards, and that it would be two-way street on the north side of the pedestrian area. But maybe it's not a big deal to close down the pedestrian thing. That was just something that we had to pivot on and deviate from the plan that we approved. Was before, I think that area was assumed to be closed down and parking would be on the north and south side with the drive through the steakhouse, and we had to pivot because we didn't get that access. So, I don't know, is there any opinions on that? You know, this area right here is what I'm talking about. We could just leave it completely open to through traffic with one way through traffic.
I thought that's
it's
what,
like a hump.
yeah,
and
right.
we had to make a decision because of that driveway. And so we may not even need the driveway if we just want to keep it as it is now. One way through, all the way through.
Yeah, I thought, why did we need the driveway to begin with? Because
the original plan had the pedestrian area as potentially blocked off.
You're talking about the pavered area.
Yeah.
Is potential. Why would you need to block it off?
It's just, that was the original design, so that you could bring out tables or put booths out there, or just make it a walkable area for foot traffic.
Okay, so if we don't do that, then we could, potentially, we would not need the steakhouse permission to, we don't need their.
Yeah, the current plan is one way through.
Which is fine, right? And you're saying.
Well, some of the property owners on the north side, previously we had two-way traffic there on the north side. Now it's through, all the way through. So you can't come from College down that street.
Unless you go around to Caroline and come back from that way.
Yeah.
Which I think people get accustomed to. You know,
I mean, you can go downtown, you gotta go around the block.
Every downtown is one way.
So that was why we were pushing for this. We had asked Dave to go talk to the steakhouse owner because we had this original plan that they put together, and like, oh great, we can't do this because, and so maybe it's not a big deal.
Well, he's open to doing that. It's not like it's, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like, let's just go back to the original, why we made this decision, and do we need to pivot? Do we just want to stick to what we have, or?
Well, is there any downside to keeping it one way and allowing it to be a pedestrian?
So if the intent of the downtown improvements project was to add additional foot traffic, then having that one way could potentially derail that intent. But again, you have the scope for one way, and then we're working on the scope for traffic via the driveway to Maiden. So either way, you have two options that you can move forward on.
Okay.
It would just have to have that conversation with the private property owner.
So the private property owner seems to be amenable to it. So should we stick with the plan, or do you think we should keep it? Wait.
Could we just add one more thing about the private property owner?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if the private property owners on the side where the raised platform, the walkways, have even approved having those raised platforms on their properties.
Well, that's going to be, there's a lot of conversations that we have because we're doing like improvements on private property all over the place.
So that's to that point, essentially what we're lining out here today in this memo is outlining the overall scope. There's still, like Ryan and Ms. Tilly have mentioned, are conversations that need to be had with the private property owners as far as all of the improvements go. Obviously, just because so much time has elapsed since the initial conversations took place. And so that is within our intention to have those conversations with those private property owners.
So then we just let that, isn't that the next step then, is once?
So first step would be identifying the most attractive layout, and then from that step, which with either layout, you would have those improvements to the private site.
Right.
With the raised elevation deck.
So we probably need to get moving along on that anyway. And as far as the layout is concerned, do y'all have any comments on the layout? Not really? Anything? No?
No, I don't like it.
I think the layout's fine the way it is now, with or without the driveway. That to me was just something that was added later. We never really, right? We never included that in the original.
The original plan, just to kind of reiterate, was through Maiden going north was one way.
Right.
And then that would loop out along the steakhouse to let people egress out, so you can get emergency vehicles in and out of that area.
Maybe we just,
without going through.
Yeah, maybe
on the other side, it was two-way, with parking on both sides, so people could come from College in and out on the north side. And that gave you the flexibility of closing off the pedestrian access, or the area there.
You're saying
this, we can't, my understanding is we can't knock out that. It always has to be permanent through, so emergency vehicles can get through and around. So we would have that lost flexibility, but I don't know how important that is, what we would use that space for, or anything. So
why spend the extra money if we can get what we want without doing that and potentially disrupt a business?
So not, just keeping the one-way through street and not dealing with the steakhouse.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the one less property owner to deal with, and less.
That's one less
Less
property.
expense, we wouldn't be doing any parking or improvements on his property then
So
also.
what was the overall cost of the project?
1.9
So
million.
as it's currently scoped out with no access drive via the steakhouse, it is a total of 1.9 million. And that includes all your surface improvements, your water line, and your storm improvements.
Okay.
So the current lines, you have that now, you just replace all that stuff?
Yes, sir. And so what we would be doing is essentially making sure that when we're bidding this project out, that all of those can not concurrently happen, but happen in a sequence that doesn't impact the other. There would be no point in doing the streetscape improvement and then going back and ripping up pavement to do your water lines and storm sewer. So we would do our utilities first and then our pavement.
So I guess if I have an opinion, I would keep the current design. It makes sense. The one way is actually kind of nice. I think it's less confusing.
Okay.
Once you identify that as one way, people will treat it one way all the way through. And then the pedestrian area is actually raised and elevated and colored in a way that you would make you think, maybe I don't want to drive there, or you can. But
And if we down the road, we want to put removable bollards for special events.
But we can't. We would have to close down the whole street.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
So one way or the other, you got to close
Yeah.
out.
Which they do a lot of.
Yeah, they do that anyway. They would just close down from College to Caroline.
Which makes sense anyway. I would rather the whole street be closed down once you.
I would say since we got a layout now, we just move forward with that.
All right, so that's kind of the way we're thinking. And maybe you guys can go ahead and start talking with the property owners to determine if they're going to get any pushback.
Yeah, they might be pushback on the one way. You never know.
Yeah.
It might be good to get them to
But
say
this has
one way.
been in the public view for quite some time now. I'm sure they know about it. So I would, if we would have, we probably would have heard from them by now if they were upset or, right?
Well,
No?
Yeah.
No? They
They may
don't,
not know, but
they don't get upset until you actually come down and talk to them? Okay.
you're assuming they listen in or.
They want to have a meeting,
One-on-one with somebody, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. All right, so can we start that process then? Is that something that, who does that? Is that you, Tilly? You're really nice. Everybody's going to love you.
She's a good.
Okay. All right.
It goes with that title.
Well, is there, Ms. Bevins, is there anything we need to do other than this discussion and say we're ready to move forward, or there's no motion to be made?
This was just a discussion and an update on the current status.
All right,
It sounds
well,
like without voting on it, we're all going with the current one-ways through street design and just getting preliminary feedback from property owners on if they're okay with that.
let's
layout.
go.
That
Yeah,
is what I'm taking away from this.
take it away.
We can do.
Go. You
Awesome.
Put your running shoes on and let's go get this done. Yeah,
And
we're
I guess
ready.
we also need to say, we don't need to coordinate with the steakhouse property owner at this point. We'll put that on hold.
No.
We'll still talk about that just in case things change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chris and Tilly, we're going to be talking with all those business owners, just to make
Okay.
sure that everybody's on board. So when something starts happening, nobody's saying nobody told me. So,
Yeah.
yeah, and we'll keep that open too.
I don't know if at some point, is this part of CIP funds and does it have to go to city council? In
This will
order to
be-
move forward with deciding.
We've already have a contract with Ardura to complete the drawings, so we shouldn't need to do anything.
Is she talking about the funds to build the,
To build it?
Right.
Yeah, well, we'll need to pay for that EDC and that'll have to go through the two.
It has to
the
go through
whole
city
rigmarole
council, yeah.
Of everything.
Yeah,
It'll
'cause
be at least
it's well beyond
$3 million.
10,000. Okay, so we're all on the same page. We're going to move forward. Maybe by the next council meeting, we could see if there's any pushback, or even in the meantime, if there's somebody that wants some FaceTime with, I know Chief likes to be out there and talk to people one-on-one, right, Chief? Yeah, right? Anyway.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, we
Yeah, thank you,
appreciate it, thank you. Sorry, Chief, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus on that. Okay, so next we're going to discuss the initial preliminary proposed interim ordinance presented by Kinnickist Collaborative.
So, the update on the interim ordinance, and I don't know if you all have received your copies.
That's a lot.
They consolidated chapter 78 and
Yeah.
chapter 98. I print one for each one of you because there are a lot of pages.
You think?
So if anyone wants it in printed version, I can get it out to you. Otherwise, we'll just email it and get that out to you. Today, I think there was a new sheet that came from them, and it was the design guidelines, design criteria. So I had not seen that yet.
So, so we reviewed the draft UDO from Ken and Keys. We provided them comments last week, and they provided us with an update today or late yesterday. And essentially what some of our comments were regarding the street classifications. They were proposing that we redefine some of our streets from major to artillery or et cetera. And so they, along with the updates to the ordinance, revised the design manual. And so we haven't had a chance to review those because they came in today. But we are moving forward and working with them to make sure that they're cross-referencing all the appropriate reference material.
Okay. Has council approved these ordinances yet, or are we still in the process? Okay.
Nope, P&Z will review them and then council.
We'll get them.
So,
Everything's gonna be built before we
Do
do
you
it.
think soon?
I wouldn't say so.
No, it takes a little more time, but they're finished, right? I mean,
What?
the ordinances?
Are finished?
February 25th.
Chapter 78 will be approved on February 25th. So
That's what I thought, okay.
Now, 98 will be approved at a later date, and we need the calendar because that has to be published, public hearings, different notice required there, and go to P&Z. Phil's right. 78 does not have to go to P&Z.
Good.
It's just a public
That
hearing.
was the interim ordinances that we were going to go ahead and.
Correct, and I don't know how much the final product will change from the interim, so there may not be much to change, but I believe council wanted to put something in place now.
Yeah, just to prevent crazy things from happening in the future with respect to development, correct?
And we're
Okay.
working on the chapter 98 zoning, comprehensive zoning ordinance.
Perfect. Okay, well, that's not too far down the road. Okay, good. Any other discussion on that? Are you guys good? And let's see here. So next on our agenda, consideration and possible action on the regular minutes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, number 9, regular meeting minutes of January 29th, 2025. Do we have any comments? No? Can we get a motion to accept those minutes?
Make a motion, we accept regular minutes meeting for January 29th meeting.
Second?
Second.
Okay, so it's been motioned and seconded that we accept the regular meeting minutes of January 29th. This motion is amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Okay, well, we will go ahead and put those on the record. One of the final items on the agenda is the number 10 Finance Department report. And Mary Ann, you are up. Thanks for sticking it out for so long.
You're welcome, you're welcome. All right, so, y'all had asked last time kind of what our fund balance was. You're looking at that $4 million mark, but that would bring you to nothing. So just to keep that in mind. As far as the rest of your finance report, everything is moving along. The sales tax it'll be next month when we will see the split off between CCPD and MEDC.
Do we have we seen any benefits from the new businesses that have come in? How's that trending, according to our projections? Meaning Home Depot and Lupe and some of the others?
They're in line with what our projections were.
Perfect. Okay. Good. Excellent. All right. Well, any other comments on the finance report, Ms. Treasury? Secretary? No? Okay.
I didn't see
All right. Well, thank you, Mary Ann. Wow, all that for just a few seconds. We should give you a kazoo or something so you can entertain a little more.
Item number 1.
Yeah, item number 1, Mary Ann, yeah, next time. Okay, I believe that is all we have, right? There's nothing left on our agenda?
The executive session, if you
Yes, we're-
proceed into that.
Right, we're going to adjourn for executive session, and then we will be back to close the meetings, correct?
Yes, but I need you to read
you have
all
to
the way
read
through
the-
item 11.
Yeah, I will. So we're, number 11 is closed session. Montgomery Economic Development Corporation will meet in closed session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 of the Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in A, Section 551.072, deliberations about real property for potential land purpose. And number 12,
No,
not yet?
No.
That's when we come back.
Yeah, just call the time and
Okay.
say, yeah.
All right, so we're going to call a time at 7:20, and I was wondering if I could ask our city attorney and Ms. Bevins to join us, and Chief Solomon, would you be open to hanging out with us for a few minutes? Yeah. Okay, all right. We are back. All right, we're back in open session. The time is 8:40.
Not 8.
Oh, 7:40. Yeah, I'm looking at the, I was going by.
My bad.
We might need to adjust that on the paper. I don't know why. 7:40 and open session. Montgomery Economic Development Corporation will reconvene in open session, at which time on the matters discussed in closed session may be considered. Section 551.072 deliberations about real property for potential land purchase. And I believe we have a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to authorize our interim city administrator to send letter of intent to acquire land.
I'll second.
It's been motioned and seconded that we send a letter of intent to acquire land. That motion is amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion passes. And we are open to any items for consideration of placement of future agendas. Does anybody have anything they want to add for future agendas at this time? No? Okay. Well, then I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Ms. Carroll's made a motion to adjourn. It's been seconded. So it's amendable, debatable, requires a majority vote. All those in favor say aye. 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 The meeting is adjourned.
7:40.
I need to adjust that piece of paper. Is that? Okay, and the date is, what is?
I think they're probably under a feasibility study. I think they ended up or doing a feasibility for it.
Okay.